The house was dead silent. Your mother was sitting on the edge of the sofa, her hands trembling, a glass of untouched water on the table in front of her. Your father stood by the window, fist clenched behind his back, staring into nothing. You stepped inside, still in your work clothes, unaware of the storm that had just hit. Mom, Dad, what's going on? You asked slowly, glancing between them. Your mother looked up, eyes rimmed with red. She's gone. Gone? You frowned. Who is gone? Your father turned, his face was hard. Minji, she ran away. The silence after that was suffocating. She what? You whispered, almost laughing because it sounded absurd. The wedding is in 2 days. She left a note, no details, just that she can't go through with the marriage. Your father said through gritted teeth. She knew what was at stake. She knew the agreement. She left because he's paralyzed. Your mother added quietly. She said she couldn't tie herself to someone who'll never walk again. You blinked at them stunned. You think that's a good enough reason to disappear without warning? She was scared, your mother murmured. And what about us? Your father snapped. The Johns will destroy us. Do you know how much I backed them for this deal? Jungkook's father trusted me, our business survival because of this merger. I get that, Dad, but what do you want me to do? Chase her down? Drag her back in a bridal gown? He didn't answer, not with words. He looked at you with a tight jaw, with the kind of desperation that twisted your gut. No, you said instantly. Don't even think about it. You're the only one who can fix this. You looked at him in disbelief. I'm not a patch, Dad. I'm not a stand-in actress in some school play. This is a marriage, not a business deal you can shift around like pawn on a board. Your mother's voice cracked. Please just consider it. You stared at them in disbelief. You are asking me to marry a man I've never ever even met? Because my sister bailed on a contract marriage with someone who's paralyzed? Paralyzed or not, he's John Jungkook, your father said sharply. You know what that name means? He could have had anyone. He agreed to marry into our family. You know what that could do for your siblings, for your mother's treatment, for the factory workers who rely on my business to feed their children? Do you think any of that survives if the Johns pull out? You bit your lip, emotions rising like a tide you couldn't hold back. What about I want? Do I not matter? You do, your mother said softly, but sometimes life asks you to sacrifice your own desires for the greater good. And trust me, he's a nice guy. Don't go on his disability. And who decides what's the greatest good, Mom? Who says I have to bleed so everyone else gets to breathe? Silence again. Then your father stepped closer. You want me to beg? Fine, I'm begging you. Not as a businessman, as a father. You closed your eyes. You could hear your little brother's laugh echo from the hallway. See your mother's medical files stacked in the drawer. Feel your own dreams quietly folding up and tucking themselves away. And then you said it. Fine, I'll do it. No applause followed, just your mother's broken sob and your father's long, shuddering exhale. The wedding was quiet, rushed, only close family, no media, no questions. You sat beside him, John Jungkook, dressed in the same gown your sister was meant to wear. He didn't even flinch when he saw you, just stared with eyes that seemed to know too much. No one talked about the bride swap, no one dared. Later that night, you sat in the bedroom, removing your heavy jewelry one piece at a time. The silence was loud until you heard the wheels approach. He entered the room in his wheelchair, silent and still. You didn't know what to say. How do you even begin a conversation like this? Then he broke it. You are not Minji. You looked at him startled. You knew? He gave a small, almost amused smile. Of course. She had a small scar above her brow. You don't. You sighed defeated. Then why go through with it? He wheeled closer, stopping just a few feet away. Because I saw something the moment you walked in. You didn't want this, but you chose it anyway. You scoffed. I chose nothing. I was handed this because someone ran. That's not true, he said quietly. You could have run too. You met his eyes. Then what do you want from me now? Gratitude? Loyalty? Silence? He paused, then something unexpected happened. He stood up just like that, effortless. You blinked in disbelief. What? I'm not paralyzed, he said calmly. The world tilted for you. You were acting all the way? Why? I needed to know what kind of people your family really were. If they wanted me for who I am, or just for the empire that follows my name. You stepped back, feeling your legs weaken. So, all of this, the wheelchair, the pity, the entire act was a test? No, he said gently. It was protection, and it gave me the answer I needed. You stared at him, which is? That your sister ran the moment she thought I was broken, but you stayed, even when you were never supposed to be a part of the deal. You proved your pure heart, your loyalty. You swallowed hard, still trying to process. I won't lie to you. This marriage started wrong, messy, brutal even. But I want to make it right, if you let me. And if I don't, you whispered. Then I'll let you go. But before that, I'll spend every day showing you that I'm not the man you were forced to marry. I'm the man who will love you the way you have never been loved before. Not because I owe you, but because you deserve it. And for the first time that night, you had no words, just the sound of your heart quietly starting to beat again. The morning light slipped in through the sheer curtains. You blinked awake, groggy, your body still curled under the blanket. For a few seconds, you forgot where you were, and then you remembered. This wasn't your old room, this was his house, his room. You sat up, running your fingers through your hair, and stretched lazily. You moved to slide your feet down, but paused. Your slippers weren't where you left them. Instead, they were neatly placed at the edge of the bed, facing outward, like someone had taken the time to turn them for you. Your eyes narrowed, a small folded note sat on your nightstand. You opened it slowly. Don't walk barefoot. The floor gets cold. Your old habit, right? I asked the maid to warm your milk today. She said you skipped dinner last night. Also, check the kitchen shelf. I got the weird cereal you always mention. JK. You frowned. The tone was casual, not clingy, not dramatic, just quiet care. You pulled on the slippers and walked to the door, half expecting him to be gone already. But as you stepped into the hallway, you saw him, standing by the window in the lounge, coffee in hand, eyes fixed on something outside. He turned when he heard your footsteps. Morning, he said, voice soft but steady. You folded the note and slipped it into your robe pocket. You told her to warm the milk? You asked, walking to the counter. She said you hadn't eaten. You looked exhausted last night. You poured yourself water, not meeting his eyes. You didn't have to. He gave a faint smile. I know, but I wanted to. You finally turned to face him, arms crossed. You think small gestures will fix things between us? He met your gaze calmly. No, I don't think anything I do will fix something you never agreed to begin with, but I still want you to feel safe here, that's all. Silence hung between you for a long moment. And for once it wasn't suffocating, just still. You stared at him. Why do you always sound so calm, like none of this affects you? He looked down at his cup. Because I have been through worse, Ryan, and I've learned that sometimes people don't need loud apologies or promises, just consistency. He stepped back, about to leave the room, but then paused. I'll be out late today, meeting with the board. If you feel like having dinner, there's pasta in the fridge. I told them to skip the mushrooms. You blink. How do you even know I hate mushrooms? He looked over his shoulder, a smile touching his lips for the briefest moment. I listened. Then he walked away, and you stood there barefoot inside the slippers he had torn for you, feeling something quietly shift. It had been pouring for hours. The sky hung low and heavy, and the sound of rain echoed through the kitchen like a soft drumbeat. You entered, towel draped over your shoulders, damp from running up the driveway after getting caught outside. He was there, Jungkook, sitting at the dining table, sleeves rolled up, two bowls of ramen in front of him. The steam curled gently into the air. I figured you would be back around now, he said without looking up. You always text the driver to drop you at the gate. You like walking in the rain, don't you? You raised an eyebrow, stepping closer. You were waiting? He shrugged. Maybe. You hesitated, then pulled the chair out and sat. The ramen smelled like warmth and nostalgia. He pushed your bowl closer. No mushrooms, and I didn't put that much spice today. You nodded silently, taking a small bite. Comfort settled between you both, quiet, not forced. Then he spoke, voice lower than usual. Are you not happy with this marriage? The voice caught you off guard. You paused mid-bite, slowly lowered your chopsticks. Where's that coming from? He didn't meet your eyes. I've been thinking. I know how this started. It was supposed to be your sister, and I know you only stood in for her because she ran. Maybe that's why you are not accepting me. You stayed quiet, your hands gripping the side of the bowl. He went on carefully. I know what kind of man that makes me look like. That your family had to offer you up like a replacement product, but I swear to you, Ian, I didn't ask for any of this either. It was an arranged deal for a business I didn't even want to run. But then I saw you. You looked up at him. He wasn't avoiding your gaze anymore. In fact, his stare was steady, unwavering. The first time I saw you, you were helping your sister fix her lipstick at the engagement party. You didn't even look at me, but something just hit me. That's the only way I can explain it. It wasn't love, not then, but something clicked, something real, something I knew I would chase if the situation was even slightly different. He swallowed hard, fingers tightening around the chopsticks. I felt it too, that night, the same thing you just described, but she was the bride and I had no right to look at you that way. His brows lifted, shocked, relieved, happy. He felt all the emotions at once. So it wasn't just me. You shook your head slowly, your voice laced with something close to regret but not shame. I stayed silent because it wasn't my place. Not then, but I wasn't looking for an out. I wasn't hoping she would run. I didn't want this like this. He leaned back in his chair, absorbing your words like they meant more to him than he let on. I know you never looked at me like you expected anything, not even now. And maybe that's what made me fall harder. You blinked. Fall? He smiled softly, not the usual teasing kind. This one held weight. Yeah, slowly, quietly, against all logic and timing. I have been falling for you, Ryan. You didn't answer right away, just looked at the untouched ramen in front of you, then at him again, and finally you whispered, "Then don't stop." His smile deepened, and for the first time in a while, maybe ever, the air around you both felt warm, even with the rain tapping softly against the window. The night was still, the rain had stopped, no wind, just the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the occasional flicker of city lights leaking through the curtains. You were curled up in bed, half reading, half watching him, from over the top of your book. Jungkook sat across the room at the edge of the window bench. "Thinking again?" You asked in a low voice. He didn't respond at first. "Yeah." You waited, and then he turned to you, leaned his head against the glass behind him. "Do you ever wonder how this would have gone if it had been normal?" Your brows furrowed. "Normal? If you hadn't been offered like a pawn, if I hadn't faked being paralyzed, if your sister hadn't run, if I had met you like a normal guy, asked you out for coffee, fallen in love the traditional way." You put the book down and sat up slightly. "I do, but then I think, would I have the courage to let you love me like this?" He smiled faintly. "Like this?" You nodded, patiently, without asking for more than I can give. Quietly, even when I've been cold, you never demanded to be loved back. I never needed to. I saw it in the way you stayed, in the way you started remembering how I take my tea, in the way you stopped flinching when I stood too close. You looked down at your hands. I wasn't afraid of you. I know. You were afraid of what it meant to need someone. You swallowed. Then said quietly, "When you told me you weren't paralyzed, I didn't feel betrayed. I felt relieved." He looked at you because it meant you could walk away. You continued, voice a little shaky, "But you didn't." "Why?" You asked. He didn't blink. "Because the moment I saw you, really saw you, it stopped being about walking away. You weren't the backup plan. You became the plan." Your eyes burned, not with pain but with the kind of warmth that came from finally being seen without filters, expectations, or obligation. You got out of bed quietly and walked to him, stopped in front of him, and dropped to your knees so you were eye level. He looked startled. "Why?" You placed your hand gently on his cheek. "You were the wrong person at the right time and the right person at the wrong time. But now you're just mine." His hands gripped your wrists gently, like holding something fragile. You smiled, "And I'm yours." He leaned in forehead to forehead, voice barely a whisper, always. And in that still room, with no grand gestures, no fireworks, no perfect past, just two imperfect hearts finally choosing each other, it began.